Welcome into the Bradley Health Podcast, where I teach you how to change your brain, protect your future, and be a part of a generation who's going to end Alzheimer's and dementia. And I truly believe that. Before we start every podcast, I need to let everybody know you can protect your brain, you can reverse cognitive decline, and we're going to make it way simpler than you may think it is. Let's jump right in. I'm so glad you found this podcast because I'm trying to create a tribe of people who not only want to protect their brains, but actively fight against dementia and Alzheimer's. And that is exactly what we're going to do. Podcast episode after podcast episode, we're just going to keep going through tips, tricks, tactics, the science, and teaching you how to take action in controlling your own outcome for the future and controlling your own brain health. Today's episode is all about how you can use food to heal and protect your brain for the future. And you can use food to clear brain fog, fix fatigue, create clarity for yourself, and just feel better in general. So many of the people that I work with, the first thing we actually work on is food, is their nutrition, because it is that important. Now, before we get into any of that, I want to introduce myself so you know who you're listening to, because there may be a few new people here, or you may have just not heard my story before. My name is Tyler Bradley. I'm the founder and coach at Bradley Health, and I started my health coaching companies focused around brain health and preventing dementia because my mom was diagnosed with dementia at only 57 years old. And now, almost 5 years into that diagnosis, I help take care of her, and I see every day the toll it takes on not only her, but my dad and myself as caregivers. And knowing what I know about the science behind the brain, following the RECODE 2.0 protocol by Dr. Dale Bredesen, and my own coaching methods, I know that we can protect from the majority of dementia cases, the majority of Alzheimer's cases, and the people at Apollo Health and who are following the RECODE protocol are reversing their own cognitive decline. With that, I truly think that we can end Alzheimer's and dementia instead of letting the numbers continue to increase like they have over the last 25 years and how they're predicted to. We can lower those numbers drastically for the future. I hope you can feel the passion that I have for brain health as you listen to me through this podcast, because I am here to help you. And I want that to come through because I want to be the help my mom never had. What we're actually going to cover today, talking about the massive difference your food makes in your body and how that ties into your brain health. Then you and I will discuss the types of food you should actually be adding to your diet. And I don't want to tell you to restrict everything, cut everything out. That's not how it works. That's not how you see long-term success. I'll get into that a little bit. And then we know what the healthiest diet in the world is. If it was easy to switch to that, everyone would do it. So we're going to talk about why it is so hard to switch your food. And then finally, we're going to talk about why food needs to be the biggest first step and the biggest mistake people typically make when they get started. So this first section, I got into Alzheimer's coaching and dementia coaching because whenever I started looking it up when my mom was diagnosed, I saw a lot of people calling it type 3 diabetes. This can be accurate because blood sugar plays a huge role, just like type 2 diabetes obviously is a blood sugar and insulin issue, but it's not that simple. But food is a big contributor to your brain health. And I took this as food controls your outcome. And so I started diving in heavily on the nutrition side of things. Your food plays a vital role in your body's ability to use and produce energy. And so talking about calories as energy, because in the fat loss sphere, it's always calories in versus calories out. Understanding that calories are just an energy source is really, really key because we need energy through our food, through what we're drinking, to produce energy at a cellular level, especially in the brain. And then we talk about nutrients are really, really important, getting enough of those in to move fuel, that energy, the nutrients going into your cells across your body to produce the right hormones, to produce that energy in your cells and have that nice healed gut microbiome that we'll talk about in just a little bit. And we're also going to talk a little bit about how a lack of each or excess can cause issues. You've probably heard the phrase, the dose creates the poison. This is the same case for micronutrients. You can have too many omega-3s, too much vitamin D. Now you have to have a ton of them and probably likely be supplementing with them to have that happen. But too little also is a too small of a dose, which can create an issue in your body. And that goes for pretty much any nutrient that your body needs to thrive. Energy volatility is even more detrimental than a lack of energy over time. So let's talk about that and dive in a little bit deeper. And that's specifically looking at blood sugar, because when you eat something, your body starts digesting it, and what happens is it produces glucose that it puts into the bloodstream. And that is where blood sugar comes from. Whenever you have blood sugar increases in the bloodstream, your brain starts signaling that you need to start producing insulin so that the blood or the sugar in the blood, the glucose, can be unlocked and put into the cells. And that is insulin's job to decrease the amount of glucose in the bloodstream, put it in the cells so that you can actually use it to produce energy. What happens in the most of the time of the standard American diet is this volatility in your blood sugar because the standard American diet is highly processed, highly digestible foods, really carb heavy. And I'm not talking about starchy carbs or carbs coming from vegetables. I'm talking about processed carbs and grains. What happens is you eat too much or you eat too many carbs too quickly, your blood sugar spikes way up. What happens then is you get an overproduction of insulin to bring the blood sugar back down because there is way too much of it. Your brain says, we got to get this back down. And then it drops really quickly and then drops out of the zone that you typically want to see it in. This is a stability issue. So volatility creates the inability for stability in your energy production. And your brain loves glucose. It needs that energy production to come from glucose because a fun fact that I like to throw out is that your brain uses around 20% of your daily energy. And now that's an average. That's not perfect person to person, but it's a pretty stark contrast on like, okay, your brain does need a ton of energy. Your blood sugar, then if you're going through this, it kind of looks like a roller coaster. You can think of it as, it's spiking way up, coming way down, going way back up. And obviously that is not going to be beneficial for energy production or for being able to utilize energy because the blood sugar goes up, it gets pumped into the cells, it goes way too low. And then your cortisol is going to go up as well, which is a stress hormone because it's saying, hey, we don't have enough blood sugar now. We need to get back to the baseline somehow. This makes your brain work really, really hard. And when that happens, your cells don't get the energy they need, or your brain is a kind of a predictive organ. It's expecting one thing and getting another. And this can lead to a large amount of inflammation over time if you start running into those issues. So if you are already pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, a lot of these blood sugar issues that you're running into can also cause a ton of brain fog, a ton of fatigue. And in 9 out of 10 cases of Alzheimer's, they can look at their brains and see that they have some sort of insulin resistance from this volatility. Your brain just cannot keep up. Talking about the nutrients now a little bit and what you actually eat and your food quality plays a huge role in your brain's ability to function day to day. We can talk very broadly about micronutrients because we can get, into the nitty-gritty, into the weeds of it, but I don't have time on this one podcast today. Talking about micronutrients, we're looking at vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, and amino acids, which come from the macros that you're consuming. Amino acids from the protein, fatty acids, obviously from the fat, and then vitamins and minerals are in all kinds of different foods. Your cells need these micronutrients. Your organs need these micronutrients to produce the right amount of hormones, to activate the immune system correctly, to function properly day to day, hour to hour, second to second. They need the nutrients in the right amounts in order to do that. Most of the time, you're just not getting enough nutrient density in your diet, especially if you're not eating a majority whole food based diet. Those packaged foods that you're consuming or the fast food, the really grab and go foods just don't have a ton of nutrient density. And so what we need to make sure you're doing is getting in plenty of those fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. When your cells don't get the nutrients that you need, when your organs don't get the nutrients that you need, the structures start to break down, leading to this energy production issue again, and then inflammation at a cellular level. So if you're experiencing brain fog, energy dips, feeling puffy all over, bloating, nausea, indigestion, trouble sleeping, all of these symptoms can point to issues stemming from the brain or stemming from food. And food, a lot of times, can fix the issue 90% of the time, at least by dialing it in. And then you can look elsewhere because you'll fix the issues the food is causing and you'll know exactly what to tackle next. But what type of foods should you be eating? Which is why a lot of you might be listening. And this is kind of the fun part. What foods can I eat, right? And if you're like me and you just love food so much, this can be an actual fun process to go through. Trying new things, adding new food into your daily diet that you realize that you actually love, and it's actually really easy to cook. And you might hate some of them I suggest, and that's okay. Your diet is your diet, and you don't always have to be perfect with it, which is kind of what I talked about earlier in not trying to change everything at once. You need to start adding things in slowly. We're not restricting your foods. With all my clients, I never say right off the bat, you cannot eat this unless they have some severe intolerance that is very obvious. Then we go that route. But most of the time, it's just what foods can we add in that are going to fix your nutrient deficiencies, that are going to fix your energy deficiencies to get your brain where it needs to be to start seeing those successes. And when you think of it that way, it's, oh, I get to eat this food instead of, oh, I can't eat this food. And that changes the outcome of your diet very quickly because we're not going on a diet, we're creating a diet that works for you long term. The first food I always like to talk about when it comes to brain health, those high in omega-3 fatty acids. Your brain is made up of approximately 60% fat, and you need healthy fats for your brain. So the low fat craze that happened in the early 2000s for weight loss probably was super detrimental, not probably, we know it was super detrimental for people's cognition. And so we need these healthy fats. The omega-3 fatty acids are going to come from things like olive oil, which is simple and easy. Always cook in olive oil or avocado oil. You can drizzle olive oil over salads, drizzle olive oil on your food. Whatever you can do to add olive oil in your diet, it's going to be extremely beneficial. And if we want to talk about seed oils, because that's a big conversation about, processed seed oils are toxic and this and that about not having them and having beef tallow or something instead. At the end of the day, this is what I always tell people. Just use olive oil. That's it. It's as simple as that. Olive oil and avocado oil. You don't even need to worry about seed oils. And if you're going to a restaurant, if you're eating and following a really healthy diet already, and you get a little bit of seed oils at a restaurant, not a big deal. Just use olive oil at home. Just use avocado oil at home. Things like fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, anchovies. This is kind of where people fall off if they don't like these things, and that's okay. You don't need to get the fatty fish in, though they are extremely healthy and they have a ton of omega-3s and protein. The salmon and the sardines are my two favorites. The sardines specifically, you can buy them super cheap at the store, packed in olive oil. They're a great source of protein and the omega-3s. And then salmon is likely what most people are consuming, and so you can go that route as well. And if you're going to like a restaurant, say, and you typically get the smothered chicken or fried chicken, go for the salmon, see how it goes, because it's going to be much healthier. Avocados are a great source, also a great source of fiber, which is something else we need to make sure you're adding in. Walnuts are the highest nut with omega-3 fatty acids. Flaxseed is another great option to add to yogurt. If you get flaxseed meal, you can even use it to toss into some oatmeal or make a fake oatmeal using it. And then some lesser ones with omega-3 fatty acids are going to be eggs, chia seeds, and then hemp seeds also have a good amount of ALA and fatty acids. Be careful if you choose to buy omega-3 supplements, especially if you're getting them from Amazon or something, because fish oil supplements can go bad. And they might not taste bad when you're consuming them because they're just in a pill form, but they do not have the omega-3s that you are looking for because they've gone bad, and they can cause issues in your gut, like nausea and disrupt your gut microbiome if that's the case. So if you are buying omega-3s from in a supplement form, you need to make sure that you're getting them from the source, from the website, because likely if you're buying them on Amazon, they've been sitting in a warehouse for a very long time. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to be bad, but in general, just to be safe, get them from the most reputable source you can. Next is foods high in antioxidants. Antioxidants actively fight against the big baddies in your cells that cause inflammation and aging, which is going to be the free radicals, oxidative stress. So things like berries, the most antioxidants in a berry you can get is in a blackberry. Blueberries, I think, and blackberries are superfoods and they should be listed as such. Citrus fruits have a ton of antioxidants. Leafy greens like kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, spices. So the brighter the spice, turmeric, paprika have different forms of antioxidants as well. Green tea and matcha, also a great source of antioxidants. Essentially, the brighter or more colorful the food naturally, the more antioxidants it has. So shopping most in the produce section, you're going to get a ton of antioxidants just by grabbing the brightest fruits and vegetables you can there. The last one that I will mention on this episode, because I want you to actually walk away and add these foods. So not too many of them that I'm going to mention. So just antioxidants, omega-3s are the greatest place to start. Now, fiber I mentioned from the avocados is a big contributor to your gut health, to digestion, and to blood sugar control. Most of the country doesn't come close to getting enough fiber into their diet because the recommended daily intake is far too low. We need to get much more fiber than what you'd expect. So for women, I typically say 20 to 25 grams of fiber. For men, anywhere 30 grams or higher, 30 to 35 is really going to be the optimal range. Granted, you can go higher if your gut can handle it. Fiber helps control blood sugar, which we just talked about that being a big impact on your brain because it slows down the digestion and blunts the blood sugar response, even if you're having carbs. So if you have protein and fiber first, that's going to help with your blood sugar response. It helps your gut microbiome as well because fiber is highly digest or what helps with your digestion, helping break down the good bacteria, helping break down into and ferment into your gut, creating a good microbiome. And then it's going to be, like I said, really helpful for actually digesting food and having quality bowel movements, which are very important for your overall health. I gave you a lot of great foods to add in. Make sure you're adding them in. You can add in one food a week, two foods a week, whatever you feel like you're capable of. I would say drop it down by one step to make it even easier to continue building those habits. And you need to actually do it because information means nothing if you don't act on it. So make sure you're actually taking these away and implementing them. Food is the biggest first step that I have all my clients take, and that's what you should take as well. Sorry, taking a drink there. And it's a great example of, my client Meredith is a great example of this. She's a mom of two, a teacher. She came to me with IBS, anxiety, perimenopause symptoms, and she was worried about her brain and being able to be there for her kids long term because she had seen what had happened to her grandparents and she did not want the same outcome for herself. So she joined the program, and in 2 months we shifted her diet to these few things: high fiber, adding in a ton of antioxidants from berries and things, getting her using olive oil consistently on her food because she didn't really like the fish and things. So we made sure she got plenty of omega-3s through the olive oil and the walnuts. And in just the first 2 months, she listed that she came off her anxiety medication. She had zero IBS symptoms. She was sleeping through the night again, even in perimenopause. And she reported little to no energy fluctuations after running into issues around 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon every single day, just from adding food into her diet. I never told her, let's cut this out. I just told her what to add in. Protein was also a big source in controlling her blood sugar and energy in that. But just from adding food into her diet, that happened. We also started building up her exercise around into the first month. So she was on a quality exercise routine for about a month. But again, it was like 20 minutes, 3 days a week, nothing crazy. You can think of it a little bit like this. Your engine in your car is clogged up, sputtering along. Your body's kind of like your engine. Or your body's kind of like the car. The inner workings are kind of like your engine. If you add top of the line fuel in, it goes through, clears the muck, the engine starts chugging along, moving smooth. You have zero issues. Then you continue to fill it up with this magic fuel and you realize, wow, my engine's running great. Maybe it's running better than ever. You can't hear it sputtering. Your car is running better than it has in years. But if you kept running it the same way as you were before, putting the crappy fuel in, not really taking care of it, your car would eventually burn up. The engine would, right? So it's the same concept with your body. Giving it the quality fuel is going to have it moving and running better than it has in years. And I can promise you that. This is the same thing that happens to your body. Using the food, you're going to feel great. Your brain's going to function great. You're going to have the clarity that you need. You need to make that stick. And so moving those things one step at a time, like I mentioned, is super, super key. That's why in my client process, we always start with food because of what Meredith went through, because of the car analogy. We remove anything that could be blocking you from getting the results that you need. We add in the food so that you get the nutrients that you need and it's flowing through you properly. And then maybe later we can remove any food that is diluting that fuel you're adding in. And that's going to help fix your gut. That's going to help remove any toxins that you're dealing with. But without starting here, you'd spin your wheels. No matter what else happens, starting with your food is super, super key because you could take all the supplements, you could take the peptides, you could go do the exercise. But if your food still, for lack of a better term, sucks, you're not going to see the results you want to see, especially when we're talking about your brain health. I hope you walked away from this episode with a renewed perspective on the power that your food has over your body. And I hope you learned about how food impacts your energy, your blood sugar, and ultimately the full function of your brain, because this is the first step we need to take. And that's why a lot of people call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, because is controlled so drastically by the food and your energy fluctuations in your body. Now, we talked about specifically delicious foods that you need to add into your diet right now, how to look at them as I get to eat these foods instead of I can't eat, whatever other foods you're thinking of. We talked about getting in enough omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants and fiber. And then finally, you heard why making these changes to your nutrition needs to be the first essential step on your journey to protect your brain. Remember, you have the power to change your brain, you have the power to protect your future and fight against cognitive decline. Small, consistent changes are the key. You don't need to make all these big changes at once. In fact, I have a 15 daily steps to heal your brain guide. If you want that, it's going to be in the description. But you don't have to make all 15 changes at once. You can make these changes week over week, maybe two at a time, one at a time, whatever works for you. And then take one food as homework we talked about today and intentionally add it to your plate, whether that's the antioxidants from the blueberries, the kale, the Brussels sprouts, or maybe you want to try salmon or sardines this week, whatever you think fits for you. Now, if this episode resonated with you and you learned something, hit the subscribe button. I hope you follow along or drop a review so you don't miss the next deep dive I do on healing your brain. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this episode with them. Thank you so much for joining the Bradley Health Podcast, and I hope you listen next time.